Today's training is all based on four phases that I've discovered of writing a book. Writing a book is a really exciting endeavor at the start. It is also more like a marathon, so it's not it's not difficult to get derailed in the process. So what I want to do is provide these four phases to hopefully include some insight so you can preemptively know what's coming in front of you and prevent potentially getting derailed from creating a book and then publishing it and getting it out to the world. One super exciting thing to me from a pet industry perspective, and especially for dog trainers, for example, a book can create a lot of rapport with the reader in the event that you have other services you'd like to provide those people, especially if they're in-person services. For me personally, when I created this book, A Human's Guide to Surviving Puppyhood, it literally, after a couple of months, once it was circulating, helped me go from one full puppy class to three. And that's averaging between, 7 to 8 puppies per class. So it was a significant improvement for my enrollment in my brick and mortar business, No Dog Left Behind. And the beauty of it was it didn't take anything from me after it was created. So there's so much opportunity with, especially with physical things these days in our digital world, where if you can get a physical product in the hand of a person, they're going to have a much more propensity to read it than, potentially if you sent them an ebook. Now, there's nothing wrong with ebooks. I have versions of both of those books on the wall, an ebook version, but anyhow, I digress. Basic premise is let's get into these phases so you can equip yourself in the event you're interested in writing a book and want to make sure you don't derail and fall off track is, hey, what things should you be mindful of starting this endeavor? So the four phases: choose, create, complete, circulate. The four C's, okay? So with create, this phase is going to encompass, a handful of things. Throughout this, I'm just going to briefly explain each little concept. But phase one, there's going to be, some major things we're going to have to figure out. We're going to have to figure out what is the book going to be about, topic, theme, that kind of thing. Why are we writing it? It's really good if you have a game plan at the end. I mean, obviously, you want to write it because you want it to benefit people or influence or impact, rather. Um, but also, you want to think about, well, what do I want for the reader at the end of their book, right? So, for example, for me, with mine, my first book, for dog guardians, I wanted them to have information as soon as possible when they got their puppy so they didn't miss critical periods of socialization and exposure and adequate exposure or appropriate. So I really wanted to do anything I could to get that book in the hands of them as soon as possible once they brought their puppy home or even before, so they didn't miss out on things. So there's a big emphasis at the start of the book to be like, hey, this is how you should categorize and, practice some of these things in a safe way for your dog medically, but also emotionally, etc. So why? Why are you writing it? For me, my big why for writing that book was I want to try to prevent a lot of the problem behaviors I'm seeing in my community that with people that come to me, later where, it's significantly a lot more work or harder, or there's significant limitations on the progress they can make. So that's, what I really wanted to do, part one. Part two was I really wanted them to come to puppy class, preferably mine. So that was another, why I was writing it. So it did a great job and continues to do a great job of developing rapport and trust, but also giving a lot of uh, helpful, impactful, insightful tips within its pages on things to help these people that, are outside of my dog class, right? So that's first few things. Next thing you want to think about is, well, what's the length of the book approximately? Okay. You might not have any idea, but for me, usually I'm trying to do around 150 pages or maybe even a little bit less because I want it to be like very concise and consumable for the average reader, depending on, what the topic is and who it is. But it could be longer by all means. But, for a frame of reference or especially a first book, there's nothing wrong with it being shorter and concise. Last piece is going to be, are you going to self or traditional publish? Difference is really traditional publishing, you need someone else to do it for you, and they have to sign off on your material. And I'm not super familiar with that path, so I'm not exactly sure how you get there. I'm very familiar with self-publishing because I've done it twice. And right now in this day and age is an incredible time to self-publish because it has become very financially feasible to do so. And as well, entities like Kindle Direct Publishing make it seamless. I remember when I first had a printing of my first book, I think 200 copies cost me, like over $1,300 just to print. And now it's actually quite a bit less to print off portions of these books through author copies, is what they're called, with Kindle Direct Publishing. So I think it cost me approximately, you know, $2.50 per copy. So essentially, it saved me over 50% compared to getting from a publishing entity out in Montreal that published it for me. I can get it printed a lot faster and efficiently get it delivered to me. Because for how I launched my book was very specific, for a very reasonable price, that you can't find anywhere else. So, anyways, that's that. Phase two, as you can see, is really about creating it. Okay. You're going to spend most of your time in phase two and phase three. But for the sake of today, I'm going to say, make a working title. Don't get too fixated on if it's, what you want to keep. The basic premise is you just need a title for now while you're writing the book, because your idea of what you start the book about and what you end the book with might be different, and that's okay. Especially if you've never written a book before. Just find any kind of a working title that is satisfactory, and you can always update it as you go. Okay. You might want to add a subtitle as well, but the subtitle could probably be put off till later, till the book is more established in, the writings of it. Okay. Where are you going to write the draft? So the next piece is, where are you going to write it? I mean, you can use a simple like Word document or a Pages document. That's totally fine. However, it can be super beneficial if you actually use a Kindle document. Now, I can't remember what it's called right off the top of my head, but I can find it for you. Oh, it's called Kindle Create. And you can just do a Google search or whatever search engine, Kindle Create. It's a free app that you can download from, it's owned by Amazon, Kindle Direct Publishing, but that is a perfect place to write your book into, because when you upload it, if you choose to upload it to a server like Amazon, obviously you can put it wherever you want. But if you do choose to do it there, the formatting will already be done because you did it right from the start. My last publication, once I created the book and I edited it, and then I uploaded the paper copy, and then I went to upload the ebook copy. I had to reformat the entire thing from scratch in this particular software, this Kindle Create, because the ones I was uploading was not formatting well, and it was not showing up in the way it was supposed to when I uploaded it to the Kindle ebook version, and that was like a real frustration. It would have been so much easier if I just started from scratch with doing it in that document. So, pro tip, look at that. All right. The next part is you're going to have to start thinking about cover art, the book, the spine, and the back cover. Depending on its thickness, how long the book will be, you might not need anything on the spine other than just what's already on the cover and the back. So cover art. And there's numerous ways you can do that. You can go through graphic design kind of um, websites like Fiverr or Upwork and have a graphic designer create one for you. You can go locally to a graphic designer. You can use software. Like the world is yours. But at some point, you're going to have to create some cover art. Next piece is for phase two. What is the cadence of the book going to be? So, I mean, more or less, when I say cadence, I mean the rhythm of the book. And what that can mean is like thinking about having a consistent structure. So let's just say you really want it to be consistent, but one of the consistencies is, let's say your chapter title and the sub or the sub headline are the same font and they look the same. Okay. Maybe you want to include a quote every chapter, with dotted lines around it about something that you find important. Or maybe you want to put a bubble that says, like, remember this or write this down when there's an important point on it. So thinking about the cadence, and the easiest thing you can do is just open up a few of your favorite books and look in them and be like, is there any systems or regularity with how they're reinforcing important points in this book? And most of the times there is, and you can just choose, do I want to do that? Do I want to do this? So something worth, keeping in mind. One of the last pieces of this is going to be community involvement. Involve, involvement. I don't know, it doesn't seem like it's spelled right. Anyways, you guys don't mind. Community involvement. What I mean by that is actually if you can include your audience online with, let's say brainstorming ideas for the title, which options they like more. So you present like two or three options of titles, and people are like, oh, I really like this one. I really like that one. Have you thought about this? That can really help people get them primed and excited for when it does come out. So that's a really good thing to keep in mind. Another piece is, sharing your cover art when it's ready and or your options and be like, hey, do you guys prefer option A or B? That's once again another great way to get people excited and invested in your book, and they'll start to share more about it with people who they think it might be applicable toward. Phase three is going to be your complete. So this one is pretty obvious in some regards. You're going to have to edit it. Like it might be 5 drafts, 7 drafts, 10 more. Basic premise with editing, what I'd really say is have a date that it needs to be completely edited by. So once you've done your first draft, allot yourself 30 days or some specific amount of time to complete all of the edits. Just because you might re-edit it too many times, more likely than not, and you need to probably just deploy it and get it posted. You can always edit it in the future, and that's a beautiful thing about, some of these softwares like Kindle Direct Publishing is you can re-upload it as often as you want if you want to add edits to it. But like we need to make sure it gets deployed because there's lots of people that have books on their computer that never got finished because they were just continually stuck in this editing and then never finished that phase. So, but if you have a timeline, I need to get this uploaded by the end of this month, it can really push you to complete it sooner than later. You need to finalize cover art, which is obviously part of phase two, but you're just going to want to make sure. You need to determine if you're going to have sponsors. So the reason I say sponsors is, for example, something I did to reduce the upfront costs of publishing my first book was at the back of the book, I asked some other pet business owners in my community I had relationships with is if they wanted to have a little advertisement at the very back of the book within the pages of it because I was going to be giving it away for free to these businesses to give to their clients. But as well, they were going to all go to other people in the exact same industry, or rather, who work with the same clients but aren't directly competing with me. So, like for instance, a veterinarian, a groomer, a doggy daycare all jumped on board with putting in these advertisements at the back, and then they paid me an amount which subsidized my printing costs significantly. I didn't like make any money off of it, but it was I could have charged more, but it was a very reasonable amount that they were going to get a lot of exposure to the exact people that are their clientele or ideal clientele base. And they all jumped on it. And I only said that it would be two printings, which ended up being 400 books, but they were going to get 400 eyes on their exact business that were their ideal clients. So it was very reasonably priced, in my opinion. So that's one thing you can consider as sponsors. Okay. Now, somewhat along that same line is guest articles. And what I mean by this is more or less, you could have these same professionals from some of these other complementary pet businesses write an article about a topic that is in their wheelhouse. So, for example, we had a couple veterinarians talking about vaccinations in the book, and as well as spay and neuter protocols. We had a groomer in a different area talking about, early groom exposure and the benefits of it, for example. So this did two things. One, it provided interest in what we were doing to these businesses because they're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get featured in his book. They wanted to give it out to more of their clients because they were part of it, right? They had buy-in. Uh, so that was really positive. The only downside that I'll warn you about is you have to wait for them to write it, which might not work timeline-wise on your timeline. So look, like knowing how it went before, and not everyone has the same experience with writing articles. So there's that piece too. What I'd actually recommend doing if I was to redo it over is I would interview them on a like Zoom call and record it. And then I would strip the audio from it and I would base my a section of the book on what they told me in that interview. So then I would just, kind of take out fragments of quotes and kind of reinforce some of what they said. And that way I could do it on my timeline without, necessarily I could, take out some of the components of experience and how long is it going to take them if I interviewed them versus if I asked them to write an article and then them send it back to me. So pro tip. The next piece of phase three, which is your completion, is formatting. Like I had said before. And then the last piece is uploading to wherever you're going to decide to upload it. Okay. Last phase. Whoops, I didn't put a three there. Phase four is all about launching it. So how are you going to circulate it? I don't know why this looks like an E, but it's meant to be a C. So you're going to tell anyone who will listen without, I don't mean like being silly and just screaming at the top of a building, but you want to tell as many people as you can. And that can be in person, that can be networking partners, other businesses, etc. The other thing you want to think about is, are you going to do paid ads, um, or like organic marketing where you're just sharing about it on your social medias? Some other options, are you going to just try to, like for me, I continue to give copies away. Since it only cost me like 250 per printed copy of my A Human's Guide to Surviving Puppyhood, I'm willing to give that away for free to anyone with a puppy because even if, you know, let's just say I give away 10, that's $25. And even if, let's maybe multiply that by 100, that's only $250. If 100 people take that book, there's a high probability, and it cost me $250 in printing costs, that at least a handful of them are going to work with me now or at some point in the future. It's really easy to get a return on investment for that. Like legitimately, if I give away 50 copies and one person joins a group class of mine, it's more or less going to pay itself back. One out of 50. The numbers are way better than that, but it is a easy return on investment that I will pay all day long to get that physical copy of that book into people's hands because they'll read it. And I've been numerous times be like, "Oh, I love your book." And anyways, it's an incredible resource. So, are you going to give copies away? Like, it can be pretty difficult to make a lot of money um, with self-publishing, in my experience. I'm not saying that's everyone's experience, but there's a lot of competition for like selling books to make profit. There is not a lot of competition for a book as a marketing message, as well as insight and beneficial to people, um, in your community. There's like zero competition. No one in my community that I'm aware of has written a book about puppies for puppy owners. No competition. So it's an incredible valuable resource. I just have a different look at it where, yeah, if people buy it online, that's a bonus. But ultimately, I really want to get this in the hands of as many people in my community because they can, really benefit from it. And then they might look for us for support if and when they need that. So, anyways, side note. What else are you going to do? You can host a webinar yourself about the book or an aspect of it, get people on there, and then you can offer the option for them to purchase it. You can also get into a local newspaper. So I did that with mine, and that was helpful as well. Or article or online forum, wherever. Let's just say get local. Not loco, but local. So these, I mean, as you can see, it's a feat. It's, takes a fair bit. But if you can break it down into these pieces and just start working with phase one and then working your way down, you can start to feel a lot of progress over, a relatively shorter amount of time, right? If you know there's 4 phases and you knock out phase one in the first week, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm cooking. And then phase two is a little bit more of like a marathon. But the benefit is, once you've got an outline, I try not to look too far ahead on subsequent phases so I don't get overwhelmed and so I don't quit. So, phase one of what I might do as well is create the outline for the book chapter by chapter. And then what I can do is literally write it on a piece of paper and then I check off when I've got this chapter done and whatever is included and I check off. Just like this, right? Just like I wrote, you can literally cross off each step, which is really helpful to see the progress you're making, even if it feels like, a large feat. So, anyway, if you ever want some help writing a book like this, that's something I could facilitate with you. I'm actually looking right now at I'm in the midst of creating a program specifically for pet industry professionals, looking to create a book and then launch the book and circulate it, providing the 4 C's in a very timely fashion where I want people to be able to have written their book in 90 days, 3 months. So that's not necessarily editing it, but they have everything in place for the writings of the book where it only just needs to be edited and launched. I won't say only, but where the other things left are editing and launch. But if you can do that in 90 days, it will significantly help you get to that circulation stage way faster. Lots of people will write a book for a year or two and then go into editing and circulating and potentially never get it done. So if it's less than 200 pages, it's not unreasonable. If it's more, then you're probably going to need more time, right? You might need 4, 6, 12 months, depending on how vast it is. But for me specifically, utilizing A Human's Guide to Surviving Puppyhood, it doesn't need to be more than 115 pages. So anyway, that's that. If you're interested in a PDF version of this, what I provided today, to kind of be able to check off some of the things you want yourself, just comment PDF or send me a message or tell me somehow wherever this is posted, PDF, and I get that to you. If you'd like to learn more about, a 90-day program with essentially 12 steps on going from, choosing, working through the 4 C's, from choosing all the way to circulating. That's something I'm going to be providing too. And since I'm beta testing it right now, the investment is really minimal. It's like $250. And you're going to get access to those 12 steps on going from, not having a book to having a written book in 90 days. So if that's something you're interested more about, comment yes, and then I can send you some more information about that and see if you might want to be one of my 5 beta testers in this launch of, creating your own pet industry book. Otherwise, thanks for tuning in.